being a professional is all about preparation. So working out, if you can do a reconnaissance before you fly, if you're doing it professionally, is very important to go and check out the scene. And also being prepared, having extra batteries, having extra cards. In your preparation, check out the weather reports. You can't fly in strong winds or when it's lots of rain. And if you're doing it for a job and you've got people coming on set, you've got to make sure the director and the producer know what's going on. Always get weather reports, but also understand that most of the time the weather reports are incorrect. A lot of coordination goes on to do a successful shoot, whether you're on a drone or on the ground. So you've got to, if you're doing a drone, you've got to make sure the talent knows what you want them to do, or if it's a wedding, what the couple you want them to do while you're doing your shot. Yeah, you've got to know your settings, especially when you're doing it professionally. And white balance is a big one. A lot of people shoot on auto white balance, which can be good, but when you're doing a long shot, your white balance can change mid-shot. So you should always practice your shots before you do them and choose a white balance and stick to it. Same with exposure. Your exposure will change during a shot. Get an exposure and stick to it. If possible, always underexpose your image because you can always brighten it up in post-production. But if you've blown out your highlights, there's no detail there in post and you can't darken down what you don't have. I always film at a high frame rate so I can slow it down in post, because you can always speed up in post, but you can't slow down unless you've shot on a high frame rate. So I always film larger than HD and always at a higher frame rate. Just gives me more options in post-production. Know your gear, know your settings. There's nothing worse than being flustered when you're out on a shoot. Oh, the exposure's not working, it's not working, where's the setting, what am I doing? Practice with all your settings. Being a professional cinematographer, you're telling a story. It's all about storytelling. So you work out the best way to tell that story, and you do that through your shots. So you've got to think about one shot, how it links to the next shot, how it links to the next shot to tell your story as a whole. So you've got to visualize your shot before you do it. You've got to be careful with drone videography that it's not boring. Sometimes you can do these massive long shots that are boring. Normally in video, I try and keep shots to 3 to 4 seconds at a time. So, but that can also work is what we call ramping your shots. So if you do have a big sweeping shot that you want to film, you can ramp it, so you can ramp the speed. So you might start out at 500% and go really fast, and then slow it down to a full slow-mo when the key action is happening, and then speed up again as you go out of it. So ramping your shots works well, and it's best to film in a high frame rate, slow motion, because you can always duplicate the shots in post and speed it up. But if you try and slow down in post when you haven't filmed in high frame rate, it'll be very jittery and jerky because it's trying to duplicate the frames. So a couple of other tips that you've got to be conscious of when you're flying a drone is where to stand. Make sure you're not in the shot, because a lot of these shots are very wide angle. Yeah, so I find the bigger the screen, the better. Obviously when you're doing that, I use an iPad mini. You can use a phone, but I find the iPad minis a really good size to use. You can get a hood for them as well, which will cut down a lot of the glare, and also stand in the shade, which will help you get out of shot if you're doing wide shots, but also you'll be able to see the screen better if you're in the shade. My suggestion is to have a spotter with you. So you've got to have your eyes on the drone and on the screen, and they can be a spotter and look out for approaching aircraft, or even talking to strangers that come up to you. You get two different types of people when you find a drone. People that want to ask you a million questions because they love it, and then the anti-drone people that think it's bad for privacy and want to give you a hard time. But if you're trying to concentrate on your drone, you don't want to be concentrating on strangers approaching you.
What about birds?
Yeah, birds can be a problem with drones. The best way to avoid them if they're showing interest is to quickly drop straight down or straight up. You'll find that birds have difficulty flying straight down or straight up. So if you try and go away from them horizontally, they can chase you. But if you drop straight down or go straight up, then the bird will have a lot more difficulty following you. But it is another consideration you have to watch out for, which is why a spotter is a good idea. The other thing you've got to be cautious of is the battery alarms. Don't ignore the alarms on the drone. If it's saying come home now, come home now. If it's low on battery, you think, oh, I've still got enough time there. Don't always believe it, because weather also affects your battery. If you're in a cold temperature, then your battery will go flat or faster. If the battery's a bit older, it will go down that last 20% very, very fast. So listen to your warnings, don't ignore them. It's better to come home with a bit of extra juice in your battery than fly it till it's done. I think lower shots are more dynamic quite often than higher shots. Skimming over the water at a low angle can be quite cinematic, and they can look amazing when you do your low shots. But you've got to be careful, there's a lot more obstacles down low. So whether it's a tree or a pole or a person or a boat mast, so you've got to be very, very careful. With trying to get a cinematic look out of your drone and get a wide coverage, I think it's been very diverse in your shots that you get. So you do shots, as I said before, with multiple movements. Bird's eye view is what you call shooting directly down, which can look really amazing and very dynamic. But to mix that up with low angle shots and also high angle shots, because drone stuff can easily look all the same. So when you're looking for different edit points, you want to have as many different shots as possible. Filming fast moving subjects with a drone, I suggest, if you can, is try and fly the drone in reverse. If you're going super fast forward, the drone goes down, you can get the props in your shot. So if you're doing high speed cars and stuff, if you can go in reverse, then you won't get those props in your shot. It is harder to frame it up, but it's all practice. Of course, with drones, it's very regulated. And rightly so, you've got to be careful. And so if you're in Australia, CASA is our authority that we listen to. So you've got to register with CASA. There's a lot of different regulations on the weight of your drone and what you can and can't do. CASA's also got an amazing app called Can I Fly There, which you turn that app on before you fly in any location, and it will tell you the restrictions around the area and what you can and can't do. Also, if you're taking your drone overseas, you've got to check with the regulator in that country that you're going to. So you've got to be very careful about the regulations, and it's good to be on top of it. The other thing is insurance. Insurance is a must, I believe, is getting third-party injury insurance. So I guess going to the next level, you've got to start thinking about post-production as well. It's very rare that you can output in 4K at the moment, but if you film in 4K, it gives you a lot more versatility in post-production. So you can do post-zoom, so you can zoom up in post-production. So you should always record and make the most of your time in the air. So if you're doing a shot, you do your shot, and then when you're flying back to do it again, get some other angles, keep filming and try and get as much coverage as you can, because the battery lives are quite limited really. Half an hour for the good drones these days, which is quite limited when you're talking about being on a photo or a video set. There's different ways to get good shots when you're on a drone. For example, if you can do work in post-production, quite often it's best to film in reverse. If you've got a subject you're trying to film, to come flying into them and get the right composition is very difficult. But if you do it in reverse, so you frame it up and then you fly backwards, it doesn't matter where you go when you're coming back, but when you reverse that, it looks like your end composition is perfect. So doing things in reverse works out really well for drones. You do have to be careful if you've got subjects moving. Try not to get people to walk, because when you're trying to reverse people walking or driving or on a boat, it can look weird. So I guess that's one of the considerations. You've got to think about how your workflow is in post-production as well. If you're filming 4K and on a high frame rate, it's going to be very heavy in post-production, so you need a good processing computer that can handle that. A high-speed memory card that can handle 4K and a big capacity so you don't run short. Yeah. If you are taking it to the next level as well, if you're doing it professionally and you're getting money for it, I'd also suggest to download your memory card halfway through a shoot so you can review your footage on a laptop, so you can make sure you're getting the best stuff. And also, if your drone does happen to crash, you do have something already in the can. Make sure you give this video the thumbs up, like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.